Baruch College is a campus of 20,000 students, so scaling is needed. That is part of the City University of New York, and we're located right in the middle of Manhattan at 26th Street and Lexington Avenue. And I want to introduce my colleagues who are here with me. First of all, I'm Linda Essig. I'm Provost and Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs for Baruch College, and I'm joined by Kaylanie Flores. She is a rising senior, a major in public affairs, public administration, and a peer mentor. Dr. Robert Kunicki is next to her. He is our Director of New Student Programs, and next to him is Dr. Kathleen Gray, Associate Provost for Learning and Student Success. I'm going to give you a brief introduction and some context, and then turn over most of the presentation to my colleagues. So why peer mentoring? Why is peer mentoring important? Well, we know from research, especially a whole bunch of research that was done in the early 2000s, that peer mentoring supports student success, especially for first time in college, first gen, and underrepresented students. So we know that peer mentoring works from a student success standpoint for the mentees. And we also know now, through our own experience that you'll hear more about, that peer mentorship is really a two-way learning process. It understands and supports the individual needs of both our mentees and our mentors. It builds confidence in both of those groups of students, and it reduces their fear of failure, although failure is actually a necessary condition to learning. And it really allows our mentors to go beyond academics, to build their leadership skills, to encourage them, and to empower them. So some more context about Baruch. Baruch College is one of 11 what are called senior colleges or four-year colleges in the City University of New York system. Its mission of access and excellence leads to outcomes and is really derived from this statement. And I don't usually like to read from slides, but this is our official vision, so I'm going to read it to you. Baruch College is a place of opportunity and exploration where students, faculty, and staff transform their futures, their professions, and their communities. In the heart of New York City, our diverse and inclusive community is driven by learning, innovative knowledge creation, and intellectual discovery for local and global impact. And the photo is of our very recent commencement held May 28th at the Barclays Center. That's where the Knicks play. No, it's not where the Knicks play. It's where the Nets play. Sorry. It's where it's huge place, and we had 5,426 students who received degrees that day. Baruch is really a very special place. It has I would call it a pluralistically diverse student body. About 1/3 of our students identify as Asian American. That's the orange slice of that pie. Just over a quarter identify as Hispanic Latina. That's the blue slice of the pie. And therefore, we do have an HSI designation from the federal government. The yellow slice is a slightly less than 1/4 white population. The gray slice, 10% of our students identify as Black. The blue slice is our international students. We have about 8% international students. A large number of our students come from the lowest socioeconomic status, the lowest quintile economically. 57% of our students come from households making less than $40,000 a year, and that's not very much in New York City. They are propelled at graduation to much higher income levels, and that is what led Baruch to have a headline in the New York Times that called Baruch College an upward mobility machine. Our student outcomes exceed national expectations. First-year retention rate, you can see on the slide, over 88%, almost 90%, and our 6-year graduation rate is over 72%. And a lot of that, it's not because of anything we do in programming. Sorry, guys. It's because of the students themselves. It's because of the tenacity and the grit and the smarts and the learning that our students bring with them. So I'm actually going to turn it over to one of our students, Kaylanie Flores, and she's going to share a little bit about how we support students and how students support one another.
Thank you so much, Essig. First of all, I would say that it's really honored to speak on behalf of the college and please represent for this lovely program. So, hi everyone, my name is Kaylanie Flores. I'm a writer student at Google College, majoring in public affairs with minor in politics. A few things that I've done on Blue Campus is to serve for the new student programs as a first-year seminar mentor. For terms of my how long I spent, and almost 3 years now. This will be my final year, so I was really small and that. But I want to give everybody a small breakdown of what these students have when they come to our college. So we have first year seminar, which is the course of teaching students what the resources has to offer, and so much more getting to know what the student body is aside from the classroom services that we represent in the classroom. We have the transfer student network, which is specifically for transfer students who are paired with a peer mentor. We have our orientation leaders who represent group and basically create orientations to be able to help students and get better understand what group has to offer and if it sees their interest. And in terms of executive mentors and mentor coaches, which is a little bit new, executive mentors help not only the peer mentors in terms of professional development, but they also help the youth programs be able to create different initiatives to be able to accommodate not only the students in terms of taking the courses or first year topic or the journey student network, but helping them professionally.
Dr. Gray.
Thank you all so much for joining us today. One of the things we want to share with you in terms of scaling student success and student support work is that if you're facing the same problem in your work year after year after year, it's probably a structural problem, and solving at the level of structure will enable you not to be able to apply it for all the years into the future. So we looked at our first year seminar course, which is required for graduation, 0 credit, means once a week. Our original design was to put 30 students in the room, a facilitator, and a peer mentor. The facilitators were student affairs staff, librarians, advisors, faculty, anyone we can get to volunteer for this job. We meet once a week. We have pretty good outcomes, right? The pass rates in this course were very high, student satisfaction was high. Overall, we're doing okay. As Professor Essig pointed out, we're just doing a lot of things. But we were plagued by a few structural problems that were, especially from Dr. Kunicki, difficult. We had to solve every single year, and they were hard every single year. So one of those problems was we were in a large first-year cohort. We needed 80 sections of first-year seminar. Staffing 80 sections was always too difficult. It was hard to find 80 people who had the time, the willingness, and the skill to do this job well. And developing the skill of 80 people is a really hard job. We're trying to focus on the students, also focusing on developing 80 people as facilitators in the class was a structural problem for us. Another structural problem we had is we wanted our full-time faculty in this space. We thought that was really good for our students. But our full-time faculty were saying, look, this class is all about transitioning to college and finding college resources and stuff that I, as a faculty member, are not good at. I don't know what you're going to that from the library. I can't answer these questions. So we had a mismatch of talents and tasks. It also didn't fit well with faculty workload, because it's effectively the equivalent of a 1 credit course in terms of workload. And our faculty workload sort of chunks out into 3 credit bits, right? So it's like hard for them to squeeze in extra credit for a course release of 2 credits at 5 hours. It's complicated. And then the final structural problem we had is our peer mentors were having a very uneven experience. Some of them had a facilitator that put a tremendous amount of time into cultivating their skills and partnering with them in the classroom. Others had a facilitator that just sort of let them lead the way. And the peer mentors were feeling a little maybe unprepared to do it alone, a little isolated, they didn't know the peer mentor in the space with them. And then other peer mentors, they had facilitators who were leaving the show, right? They didn't have as much to do. So we had a structural problem and uneven experience with our peer mentors. We had structural problems, we had structural solutions. We decided to kind of pull back from our original design to look at a new model, which is a lecture recitation model. So now we students go to lecture 1 week and recitation the next week. The lecture has now been reconfigured to be a full-time faculty member who is focusing on academic inquiry skills. Right? So what does it mean to be a learner, to be part of an educational community? What does it mean to think of things from an interdisciplinary perspective? How is questioning and failure part of the learning process? Right? By the way, that's a no so that I know. Okay? So we had 60 students in the lecture, and then the next week they break into 2 groups of 30 in their recitations with 2 peer mentors in that space. In this model, faculty could meet Tuesday with one group, Thursday with another group, and the next week, when those groups were in recitation, they'd meet with 2 new groups. So one faculty member could meet with 4 groups of students. In this model, we found that our students really thrived. So our peer mentors, and they are wonders of the whole. They meet with them, they have an intuitive sense of what students need, they were pivot their pedagogy, they're very creative, and they said it was incredible getting to be in the space with another peer mentor, that they brought 2 student perspectives to the classroom, they could model the kind of behavior that they wanted their students to engage in, and we're really trying to make it so that students are only getting support from the facilitator, but they're supporting each other. So by having 2 mentors in, we created this much more level, interactive support for all students. We had students in this space, we did pilot this spring. Students themselves also reported that they loved this time with peer mentors. It does seem like having 2 peer mentors together, that they felt they get more of the questions answered, hear more life experiences. They really felt that the peer mentors wanted to be there. It was very supportive and encouraging space for us. It also became a really good space for our faculty. Okay, now that the workload problem is fixed, our faculty can get a full course release from their schools. Because they're teaching those 4 groups of students, and 60 students in lecture instead of 30, instead of needing 80 facilitators every fall, now we only need 10 committed faculty. Targeting people good at something. 10 people, we can make really, really good at this. Okay? So now we have this sort of powerhouse group of faculty that works to develop their skills and be thought partners in this project. Because they're doing the 4 groups of students, should we decide to credit this class, which is something we're talking with faculty about, 3 of the credits compensate our faculty. 1 credit brings in revenue, but can help fund the current program. So we're solving the structural problems of making this model fit with the sort of lived reality of faculty and students.
The other program we focused on bringing to scale was our transfer student network. It originally began as a small opt-in program where we matched incoming transfer students to continuing transfer students for 1 semester of peer-to-peer mentorship. And what we saw was that students involved in our network consistently outperformed their peers in terms of GPA and credit accumulation. Our challenge was scale, because only those students who were raising their hands saying, yes, I want a mentor, were receiving those benefits. And so we shifted to a new model of universal access. And for the first time this spring semester, every new student at the group was matched to a peer mentor. And we did that by reimagining our infrastructure and merging different roles. So now, our first-year seminar peer mentors, in addition to supporting 30 first-year seminar students, also support about 10 transfer students. We've also hired additional transfer student network peer mentors who work with about 30 transfer students each. We've reconfigured our training protocol as well, so that all of our mentors are trained to both support new first-year and new transfer students, regardless of the role that they're in. And this has allowed us to expand access and create a stronger, more connected network of support for all of our new students. And I want to highlight some of our outcomes from this past fall semester. You see here on the left, the average GPA for new transfer students in the fall was 2.95. But for those students who opted into our network, their average GPA was 3.24. And we see similar results with credit accumulation. So those students who opted into our network, on average, earned 11.99 credits, compared to those students who did not opt into our network, earned on average 10.58 credits. They also had a higher credit completion rate, completing 93% of their credits, compared to those students who were not involved, who on average completed 87.2% of their credits.
So, in terms of being a mentor, there are a lot of areas that students do need, and it is essential that we make sure that they accommodate their needs. But in your mentor perspective, there's a lot of development and growth that happens. So on the slide, it says that there are some areas of growth that we experience is self-awareness and personal development, problem solving and conflict, ethics and decision making, and identity, culture, and inclusion. So for my time being a peer mentor, out of these 4 choices, in terms of areas of growth, I would argue that I have developed growth like self-awareness and personal development for multiple reasons. Being in a teacher-like setting in front of a class of 30 students at first can be very rewarding. When I first started, I had a lot of great training from communication, which is a celebration that we need to formally allow students to truly feel like they're a student. And we as peer mentors have that huge responsibility of moving around thousands of students. It's pretty hard.
2,500.
2,500. I'm just very happy. It's a lot more than it, but I would say that from looking back now to my first time, I can say that I've worked with different people that have their own way of expressing how to teach students and what the school has to offer. I had a colleague who was tremendously very capable, and she was a great mentor to me. We managed to be able to sit down and have a good conversation on how we want to take the approach of how to teach students to make it as fun and interactive as possible, but as well as making it memorable. So kind of close to the beginning of the semester, we decided to make a Kahoot to make it a little bit more interactive because most of the students did enjoy the board competition, but a little bit fun, with a little bit of the prizes on the side. And throughout making this position of working with faculty that have their own passions and pursuits, I was able to understand the faculty members' perception and be able to understand, be the middle person of understanding of student and faculty.
Thanks. Kathleen.
So we're doing this kind of student success work. The goal is to increase retention, and everything about being students to continue to fund the program. The change is hard, it takes time. We need to pilot this. We're trying to deeply invest in mental development. So it's very helpful that your college had a Title V developing Hispanic institutions program. It's $2.8 million over 5 years. About 40% of the grant is going to other initiatives around taking courses and pedagogical development. But the bulk of it right now is to this new student program support that enabled us to hire some support staff. We have many more peer members. We need staff to support them. A little bit of administrative assistance support for all of the hiring paperwork, food, arranging their trainings. So we have some staff support as well as some supplies, community events, and actual peer mentor pay, which starts in year 2. So again, this money really helps us with the joint purpose work. And the current federal landscape is a little nervous, but as of now, we're still this is how we've been funding for the first few years of this program.
And bringing our program to scale has forced us to rethink our recruitment and selection strategy. Recruitment for these new mentor positions is open to all undergraduates at Baruch, regardless of major or background. And while we build this as a paid leadership development opportunity, students quickly learn that it's also a community, one that's fun, supportive, and built around a shared purpose. Eligibility starts with a 2.5 GPA, but really what we look for is students with potential, an interest in Baruch, and a desire to give back. We use the application and interview process to identify which students are ready to both invest in themselves and in others. Many of our strongest applicants come through peer recommendations. So friends encouraging their friends to join our team, or students going to their clubs and encouraging them to consider being part of the NSP community. And we've seen interest grow in our program year over year. This past cycle, we had over 200 applicants for all the positions that we offer. What keeps students coming back to our role isn't the title or the compensation. It's the people and the community. They find a place where they can belong, they can develop their voice, and they can grow alongside others who also care deeply about supporting their peers. And they value the investment we made in them through training, mentorship, and ongoing professional development. All of our peer mentors completed the NASPA Certified Peer Educator Training Program, which is a national curriculum that strengthens leadership, ethical decision-making, and communication skills. We chose this model because it aligns with our goal of developing mentors to help new students and help drive culture change in our campus. Our mentors are more than just helpers and guides. They model what it looks like to be a successful Baruch student. And the CPE curriculum gives them the language to articulate that identity and the tools to lead with integrity, clarity, and empathy. This past spring, 95% of our mentors completed the Certified Peer Educator Training Program, and the feedback was overwhelmingly positive. They use words like inspiring, engaging, creative, fun when talking about the program. And they reported growth in several leadership competency areas, including self-awareness, conflict resolution, and ethics and inclusion. In addition to the formalized training we offer through CPE, we also offer bi-weekly coaching meetings for all of our mentors, as well as professional development workshops throughout the semester. These ongoing touchpoints create space for our mentors for reflection, skill development, and mutual support. Students see this as an opportunity to invest in themselves and to work with one another as they're improving the overall work community. To accommodate this growth, we've had to introduce new positions, one of them being the mentor-coach role. Our mentor coaches are returning peer mentors who are assigned to work with a group of 20 to 25 current peer mentors. These mentor coaches lead bi-weekly coaching sessions with their cohort where they can reflect and talk about the process of mentoring and their growth as student leaders. These student leaders also work closely with our professional team to plan ongoing training and development opportunities. We've also created a small group of executive peer mentors. These are our most seasoned peer mentors who help with program operations, things like recruitment, training design, staff engagement, social media, marketing, really anything to keep the program running. These executive peer mentors create a greater sense of continuity, and they give our newer mentors something to aspire to become. These tiered leadership opportunities make our program feel like it's run by students, for students, not just another administrative function at the college. And as a result, it's become more attractive to join. And it's not just a leadership development program, it's an opportunity to be part of this trusted, student-run community. And ultimately, these layers of leadership promote ownership, agency, and meaningful peer-to-peer mentorship, which is something we want all our students to experience and model.
So, as has been briefly mentioned, one of the main foundations of this entire program and its entity is quite literally student voice. And it's essentially important because us as peer mentors, our input is essential. We're not only speaking on behalf of the students that we present in our classes, but we also represent students that may not be in our course, but they have similar issues. And even be able to talk to the faculty, be able to come together as one. And from being a peer mentor for exactly this period, like I said before, it has allowed me to see a grand perspective and see things in a career scale. And I'm happy to say that I'm actually going to be the next vice president of academic affairs on behalf of the undergraduate program for Blue College. And it's because of this is I'm able to actually see myself in that position. Be able to voice not only the students' concerns in terms of what they would want to see in terms of seeing their struggle be solved, but giving them the space to be open and not feel ashamed of the things that we have practiced now. As a first generation college student, being in this position alone has taught me that I would love to see someone that sees me for who I am and seeing that I can be in that position, that it's easier said than that I belong in these places.
With any program going to scale, there are some challenges which we like to reframe as opportunities. The first being around student scheduling. Our students have complex lives, and we work our best to accommodate their existing responsibilities. So for example, our first year seminar class is built around students' existing academic schedule. We try our best to accommodate their work responsibilities. For those students who need a little bit more flexibility, we encourage them to consider other roles in our office, such as our transfer student network, which allows them to decide when and where internship happens. The other challenge is around staff time. Having a team of 160 peer mentors means 160 new hire packets, 160 timesheets, and training and developing 160 student leaders. That takes time and coordination. We manage that with the support of a strong and mighty team. We have an assistant director who manages the supervision of our peer mentors with support from our mentor coaches and our executive peer mentors. As Dr. Gray mentioned, we were able to hire a coordinator to help run the logistics of the Certified Peer Educator Training Program. And we have an administrative assistant who helps with budget, payroll, and room booking. We are small, we are lean, and we make America's happy.
I feel like every time we solve one structural problem, we solve one another. So as we expand this program, we now have different peer mentors. We're serving thousands of new students. We have to think about the space in which we provide these students. We have to conduct trainings, we're doing interviews, the mentors are meeting with each other, they're practicing their courses, to solve problems, they're also meeting with their first students. So we didn't have a space, thankfully, reserving campus with a space, so it's hard to come that we had a space that was sort of laid out in furniture kind of decor. So we had a few sort of big little armchair kind of things and one little mesh sofa. It just simply wasn't the right furniture for the job. We found customers sitting in the hallway to meet each other because we didn't have physical space that really could meet their needs. So we were able to think carefully about our budget and arrange to redesign the space with more modular furniture that we put together and sort of larger table kind of setup for larger trainings, and that we could use in smaller one-on-one meetings with students. Having announced the furniture arrived just today, it was installed, so we're excited to get home and see it all in the right place. But those spaces just was really important. We also done the virtual space, and we have our learning management systems bright space, we created bright space for our transfer students. Since they don't have that weekly first or 7-hour touch point, we want them to have a place where they could gather virtually at any time. We've seen really good engagement of our transfer students in that space. They're hosting discussion boards, they're growing their resources. We made sure we have a physical and virtual space for our students to gather. The other concern we always face is gaining faculty support. So like I shared, there was some resistance to participating in this project in the original design because it wasn't really designed to fit within faculty's regular workloads and experiences. So by taking seriously their concerns and building to solve those problems, we now have a model that faculty are really excited to participate in. We're rolling this out through pilots. So we have a small pilot spring, we have a larger pilot in the fall. We turned faculty away. We don't need you yet, but that's how much more enthusiasm we're seeing for this work. So gaining faculty support, take seriously their problems, solve the structural problems that they face, it'll make it easier for them to enter. And that challenge a task. When they said, we're not the ones to do the college transitions, to do the resource stuff, they were right. It's our peer mentors who are really skilled in that area. So that's what they do in their education with their students. Okay? So to really make sure that what you're asking people to do is something that they are skilled and ready and excited to do, help solve a lot of these problems. One last thing is we have to inspire people. Change is hard. Everyone's had bad experience with change. You have to go in with a vision that really makes people excited to join with you. And when we talked about what faculty can do with this space, what a gift it is to stand in front of literally hundreds of students in their first semester and share with them your joy of learning, share with them what it means to be part of your community. That's actually really exciting work. And when we talk about that faculty, you can see everyone kind of lean in a little bit, right? Yes, let's do this, please. I'd love to meet with the students in this way. So a little bit of inspiration goes a long way.
And one of the most important shifts we made in this program is really letting our students lead, which I feel is a theme of so many of our sessions here at GlobalMindEd. Our peer mentors design their own coaching sessions. They tell us what they want for professional development. They coordinate the best speakers to come in. They really lean on what they're hearing from their mentees and from each other to design their ongoing training and development in collaboration with our professional staff. Right? Our work is not just about delivering a program, it's about giving students a platform to share wisdom and shape the experience for others. Now, peer mentoring programs exist all across this country. There are a few elements that we feel make us a bit unique at the root. And one of those is the work that we do to accommodate our students' complex lives. Most of our students have a lot going on, whether they're juggling class, work, internships, family care responsibilities, or a 2-hour commute with public transit. We can't assume that they can be available for entire days at a time. Often, trainings like these tend to happen a week before the start of the semester or a few days over intersession. Our students can't opt out of their lives for that long. And so we've designed a flexible training program that's offered across multiple days and times that allows students to pick a schedule that works best with their existing responsibilities. So for instance, the Certified Career Educator Training Program is a 12-hour curriculum that we've broken out into either a 4-week or 8-week module that students can pick and choose from based on their scheduling needs. The space that Dr. Gray spoke about, that lounge, has high-flex technology. So our coaching meetings and our professional development workshops can happen both in person and online. Dr. Essig mentioned earlier that the group serves a high-need population. About half of our students come from families making less than $40,000 a year, which in New York City is incredibly challenging. And so for us, we don't see peer mentorship as just a service, but more so as an opportunity for our students. That's why we pay our students for every hour invested in our program, including training, coaching meetings, administrative work, student outreach, and peer-to-peer mentorship. It's allowed mentorship to become a meaningful, skill-building job that fits within their class schedules and does not compete with outside employment. In doing so, we reduce financial pressure and open doors for students to develop professionally while giving back to work.
So did you want to talk about the other two parts of this slide, about trusting and supporting the students? Yeah.
So we talk about trusting students. We really mean it. And often when we suggest things, it's not common for people to be like, no, you can't do it. Like, you can't do it, students can't do it. You can't put a student in a classroom about yourself. They can't do it. But we're always like, oh, yes, like, students can see. Our students set up to the challenge. They come prepared. We're doing the work to help them be prepared. We're prepared and supported. There's no limit to what they can do. Often in higher ed, your mentors and other student workers are being deployed by the institution for cheap labor and we need them, right? So the primary thing is serving the first-year student. The secondary thing is the student workers and mentors we're putting in space. We really reverse that, right? Our priority is creating an elite leadership development program for our peer mentors. If we do that, the first-year students will benefit, right? We've got to prepare peer mentors first. That's why we're investing financially in their training time, using the CD training modules, we're making sure that our students are getting everything they need to thrive as leaders, and then the first-year students benefit. And let's make sure that we're not some exploitative approach to student labor, that we're really using this as a developmental opportunity. We also have to restructure to make it sustainable, both financially and in terms of faculty engagement. So all of that restructuring work has been really important.
Thank you. I wanted to call everyone's attention to the photo, which is of 4 of our amazing peer mentors, and they're wearing T-shirts that feature the school slogan for our current 5-year strategic plan, 2023 to 2028. What it says, if you can't read it, is "Together we are unstoppable," and that really is fitting for this particular group of students, the peer mentors, the mentees, and the staff that really have supported this program. Together, they are indeed unstoppable. So I want to thank you for your time and attention, and we purposely left almost 20 minutes, we have about 15 minutes for your questions. We're happy to answer any questions you might have about our peer mentoring program or about other student supports we have at Baruch College. Yeah.
I have 2 questions.
Could you introduce yourself and your yeah, thanks.
Two wildly different questions. First, do you have success data on your mentors themselves for teacher graduation? And then, wildly different, you said that they were not 4-credit courses right now. Not, how do you get students to come?
I'll answer that. First year seminar is a graduation requirement, but it's a 0-credit course. So it's a 0-credit course that's required for graduation. And we actually, I will mention this because I think it's an important part of our student success infrastructure. We do block scheduling for our first semester, first time in college students. So they get a block that consists of first year seminar, a required math class, first year composition, and one other gen ed class we call gen ed pathways. But they get handed 60% of their schedule when they come to orientation, and that helps a lot. I don't know that we track the. We should. Yeah. Oh.
So in the original model, although the facilitator is a 1-to-30 ratio, our facilitators often had lots of other students they were responsible for in other settings. So if you're a faculty member, you might be teaching 100 students, right? So for one faculty member to sort of keep track of the attendance and engagement of the student when they have over 100 students is very challenging. In the new model, because we have 2 peer mentors in the space, it's really a 1-to-15 ratio, and I always go back to these support ratios, because if it's 1-to-15, you really can notice when this one student goes missing, right? You can reach out, and you're reaching out human to human, people who have relationships with each other, which is different than getting the early alert automated message from your student success platform, right? It's a peer member saying, I saw your last Tuesday, John, I think your dog was sick, you were in class this week, is everything okay? And because we don't have the ratios down to 1-to-15, our peer mentors are literally meeting every week and saying, you know, John wasn't there, I did send an email, have you heard from him, right? It's a very human scale model that enables us to notice when students aren't coming and intervene using relationships to draw people back in. So students sometimes by mid-semester, you start to see like a little bit of attendance dip, right? They have lots of competing priorities. At the end of their semester, they're starting to kind of their grades, right? Well, we have some, we have a human right there to notice, to reach out, to bring them back in. Also, it's two-peer members and third students, and we're trying to make them support network for each other, right? We're a public institution, and we have money for all the staff that you want, but even if we can hire 20 more staff, there's 15,000, 16,000 undergrads, right? And they're supporting each other. They have 16,000 support people, right? And we are supporting them. They're only getting the support that our structure can afford and staff, right? So we really are trying to make these spaces places where not only do students get support from their partner, get support from their mentors, they're learning how to support each other, which is a skill set. That's what we learn and practice that. So this is a space where students practice supporting each other. So it's not just our two-year mentors that are missing, it's also the other 30 students in your classroom. And we worked on building relationships where you can reach out to each other and mutual support. So really trying to get to a very intimate scale, a very big institution.
Before we actually go up, I just want to add to that there's this opportunity with those ratios to build human-to-human relationships, which is more important now than ever for student success. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about AI throughout this conference and every conference I've been to for the last 2 years, and what makes student success possible is not an AI bot. What makes it really possible is those human-to-human connections. Rob, the data piece, we don't do that, do we?
We don't.
But we will. That's a great idea.
It's interesting to look at. I would say anecdotally, what we find is that the students who join our programs and mentors either use it as their entry point for their niche group or as a launch pad for other opportunities. So about 30% of our students come back as peer mentors the following year. Leadership opportunities are fewer as they go up the ranks, but they use that to then become peers for careers or orientation leaders.
Or vice president of student government.
Vice president of student government. So we haven't, I guess, noticed an issue with retention based on our experience.
Yeah, but I think this is a good idea. Thank you. We'll look at that. Yeah. Yeah.
My name is Dominique. I work with nonprofit Fund Together. We're focusing more on the post-career transition.
Yeah.
So amongst others, with LaGuardia to incorporate social capital,
Oh, great.
personal connections into career readiness programs. But I've been sitting here thinking, like, wow, like intro to career or career readiness programs are very much modeled after intro to college courses, right? They tend to be also graduation requirements that are zero credit, et cetera, et cetera. Anyways, who's peer mentoring your work as well? Are you applying peer mentoring for intro to career courses? And,
Funny you mentioned that. So we are really looking at, because you work with LaGuardia, so CUNY's doing something called CUNY Beyond, which is about career-connected learning, and we're thinking right now about doing exactly that, a kind of like moving groups or pods of students, not just at the freshman level, but as they move up, and then that transforms into career readiness as you get later into your career. So I think that's, if we came back a year from now, we'd be reporting on that.
Yeah, if I can add on to that, the professional development workshops we host throughout the semester tend to have a career development meeting, especially since they're designed by our seasoned peer mentors who are already starting that internship search and are working in the field. They're bringing that knowledge back to their fellow peer mentors. They prepare them for their own internship searches, as well as to develop a resume and figure out how to craft their language on the resume to sell the skills that they're building in the first year seminar or transfer network as marketable skills to companies that they want to
Yeah, I think Kaylanie has wanted to.
Also to mention, when we're teaching the class, whether that be the model or the old model, I will be making quote me if I'm wrong. We have a syllabus. We're not required to go by each section of what we want to teach by each day that we're assigned. If anything, it's up to the peer mentor or the faculty member to see how we can be able to make sure that the students are paying attention and being able to retain that information. And when it comes to career readiness, one of the requirements is the career officers come to our sections and speak to students about the apps, the applications, or even different programs, fellowships, and things like that. If they want to achieve a bachelor's and master's degree, depending on what they want to, their major is, and so much more. So it's embedded in the syllabus. And it's just,
Thank you.
it's awesome.
Yeah.
I think one of the struggles we have is time, right? Learning takes time, development takes time. So really thinking about how you use peer mentorship, not only sort of have that starting as your first year students, but that the peer mentorship path itself gives you more time to develop students. I really do believe that time our students are juniors and seniors, they should still doing their own stuff, right? We should be that doing our jobs. That once they've been with us for 4 or 5 semesters, they're ready, they can complete the next generation. So we're developing our students' career readiness skills really well in those first 2 years. In the third and fourth year, they really are our staff. They really are the ones who know best and can educate students behind them. I also find that students, especially at an institution like Baruch, our students care deeply about their communities, they care deeply about each other. This idea that you're going to come here and learn, and you're going to lift up the generation behind you is very compelling. Our students want to be part of that very important work, and they're very, very good at it. Right? And doing our reason on first year seminar, there's first year students come forward about, peer mentor come forward about, and faculty development that I'm worried about. Right? No which group is with the most sort of stress, the faculty, right? The peer mentors are up for it. They'll change, they'll grow, they'll try new things. Our first year students do really well in space. The faculty are having to think about what they're doing possibly differently. They're on their own transitional journey. It takes time. Our students are just so strong, and we really can, in the third and fourth year, let them take the lead. And then suddenly we don't have staff problems anymore, right? So we don't have time to do this work. We literally, in the third year, thousands of third and fourth year students are here and ready to go. So I do think peer mentor models can solve some of the structural problems, static problems, funding problems that all of our institutions face, and it's better for our students in the end, right? They should gradually say, I have informed knowledge, not just about attending the graduate program.
Also, one more thing, I'm sorry, because I just realized that as soon as I ended what I said. There's also a newsletter that we get sometimes with different opportunities that specifically are for first year students. Like, Group has so many connections in terms of obviously more in the business space because that's what a lot of people tend to roll for, but it accommodates all majors across the board. So it's either that we as peer mentors we get a newsletter and we share it out through an announcement to write spaces what we use. And sometimes students will actually pay attention to those announcements, and I'm proud to say that at least a few other peer mentors that I know, some of their mentees have gone into professional development programs and have secured internships at least their sophomore year, introducing to their sophomore year. So there's also that in terms of curriculum.
Thanks. I wanted to just make a point, because if I were a provost, are any of you provosts? It's the best job in higher ed. I recommend it to all of you. If I were a provost sitting in the audience, though, I would be saying, well, you can do this, but I don't have the resources to do this at my institution. We don't really have the resources either. We bundle resources together. So Dr. Gray mentioned our Title V grant. Most of what we're doing, we were going to try to do over a longer period of time, and that Title V grant catalyzed us and enabled us to do it in a much faster time frame. But we are still bundling resources from lots of different places. There are resources within our academic affairs budget. There's resources that come from CUNY for student success. There's some philanthropic resources. And then we had this infusion, which enabled us to kick it to the next level much faster. So if you're thinking we can't do this at our institution, where there is a will, there's a way. And there's another word for where there's a will, there's a way, and it's self-efficacy. And that's a career skill that I think our mentors also really develop. And you can really see it in Kaylanie's presentation today, right? I mean, you build a self-efficacy as a mentor, and then you're sitting in a national conference presenting about your experience as a mentor. So thank you, Kaylanie, for sharing all of that. Yeah. Any other questions? No?